every city basically was a star city. It had these stars around them, but they were all walled, but also somatic shapes. These are the moats, we're told, right? Because we're all taught that castles and, you know, were these square buildings with a moat. But when we can see them from above, there's these intricate somatic patterns, and clearly you can see why we call them star forts, because they look like stars.
So here's one in Portugal, one of the star forts, the huge amount of terraforming around it. Amazingly, this one is still in pretty much pristine condition compared to the destruction of most of the ones you find today.
Piano notes. As you can see, these are all somatic. A sharp, B, C, and they're all these somatic shapes. These are cathedral windows, this fine here. These are, you know, rose windows, are all in cathedrals, and these are somatic patterns, which are created through frequency, so either harmonics or intention. Down here we have, this is our DNA, so these are fractals or somatic patterns of our DNA. This is what we get when it's good intention. We get these perfect, you know, geometrical shapes, and when it's bad intention, we get this goop. So this is like a polluted river, and this is like a clean river. And so if we tie this back to the cathedrals that have got these windows, and they're connected to the ether with all these spires, and then what else do we have in cathedrals but these things called organs, right? I mean, we have these things called organs in our body, and we just, the DNA, you know, somatic is the same as some frequencies in these windows. So what this is all looking like is these are you know, healing factories, or not even healing, wellness, I guess, just to keep people well. They're pumping out frequencies.
You can literally Google any city of the old world from the 1600s and back, and it will come up in these star fort shapes, and every single one is like Venice, and there's canals everywhere. Those were the highways of the time, but they were also so much more, with all of like this hidden technology, infrastructure, and buried history.
And you can see this one again, always these big cathedrals in the cities, but here's one of the stars, right, or batteries attached into the wall. And there's even another one of these more sort of irregular shaped ones out here, but they always have these stars attached, you know, to these star cities. And again, the canals, and you know, you can see this is a big island kind of thing as well. But the thing is with water's free energy. You know, you float a boat, you use the current, right? The current.
How about the water wheels? What are water wheels? Water wheels are harnessing electrical power. Electricity just as much as it was the physical power and mechanical power that they used out of it. What's to say that windmills and water wheels weren't actually generating hydroelectric and wind power a few 500 years ago?
This is a drawing. This is New York City, right? Battery Park is because this is what was there, a battery.
Greetings, awesome heathens. How are we all?
Hail.
Thank you for joining us.
Special
hail, hail, heathens. Yes, today we have with us the heathen master himself, Mr. Benjamin Balderson, joining us. So it's a bit of a meld of Odin's alchemy and autodidactic alchemy today. So
right, what a great way to start this series
hail, out. Sorry, hail.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining in. We got over 100 people watching already. That's pretty good. Not even 5 minutes in. Welcome everybody.
Yes.
Benjamin.
What have we got here? Esoteric Gold, Edna Bell, Dragon Sage, Draco Jones, I'm going to call you. Enslaved by Truth. Michaelian Maritha G, how you going from Texas? Machine Head, Grandpa Bear, join the technicians. Nemo, hello. Gold for Prez, Mountain Cat, Joe, hello everyone. Hippie Shake, Marabbit, and everyone else who's here. There you go. That was my big effort. Thanks for joining us. And welcome, hail, Benjamin. How are you, mate?
Oh, fantastic, guys. Fantastic. A little tired, so I might be a little loopy, but excited. Bernie and I were having trouble not not just before the show even started. We had to walk away.
Thank you very much to CJDV. We love you too very
PMG
much.
family in the house. Oh, CJDV New Zealand dollars. So you're closer to Campbell there.
Oh, New
Much
Zealand.
love. Much love.
New
He's
Zealand. Nice.
family of
Land
the
all on one
Project
cloud.
Moongold. Anybody in crypto, I highly recommend my man Josh and Joji over at Project Moongold. They're still making that daily profit in this bear market. They tell you the trade signs and what to do. And, you know, I don't have enough time to be a daily trader myself. I'm in the staked pools and stuff like that, but it's good to keep an eye out. And yeah, for anyone into that, by all means, check out PMG.
We'll get into that in another show, that Bernie. Enough about the crypto.
Indeed. Back to alchemy.
Everyone's losing their mind. I think the chat just goes, crypto. Yeah, so we were both on a live this morning, weren't we? And on Benjamin's live, and Bernie just said, hey man, come on our live. And so this is quite impromptu. So we don't know what we're doing, but Ben has some awesome information he wants to share about, well, I guess our energy bodies, how we work, who we are, what are these spinning colored whirly things inside us.
How's my sound now? A little bit better?
Oh,
much
is my sound okay?
Perfect. And yeah, also, well, me and Ben have been talking for a while, like coming on your show on the 22nd of September as well. And tonight we'll go over a little bit what we're going to be doing on that show. And he's helping me get my solar panels hooked up. And you've got a lot of experience out on your farm running off-grid solar units and stuff like that, Ben. So that's something a lot of people here are interested in, as well as you yourself, Campbell, right? Because we want to be able to get like our little homes, our mobile homes, our little mini homes, or eventually, right, the ranch, the farms. And like I got my family ranch out in BC, so it's like the ultimate goal is to get it energy independent as well and get out there, but also to be doing the touring. And that we will, now that the coof is over, it's back to the real world and back to having the tours, the festivals, the traveling seasons, and
let's go forward to the unreal world. I don't like the real world. Let's go forward to the unreal world. That's much more fun.
Right. Well,
although I do like that. I do like the festivals and stuff are going back on. Apparently, Campbell and I are both doing a festival on the 22nd of next month. I'm speaking at Flatoberfest in South Carolina.
South Carolina, is it? So everyone in the South? Well, actually, I think that's pretty close to a lot of. That's probably within 6 hours of most of the US, isn't it? So. Flatoberfest, Karen B is putting that together, yeah.
You bet.
And of course, Tartaria Australia live in Brisbane on the same day, the 22nd.
Yeah, and
nice.
At the end, throughout this, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of this because I'm working out some of this a little bit. Trying to work a little bit out. I'll show you what else I got going on before I do that, because that's kind of the culmination of this whole thing.
Cool. All right. Well, you've got the floor, Ben. If you want to jump in and start weaving your magic, and we'll.
Question from Conrad James: is Organite for real? Absolutely, it is. And,
in the screen in front of you.
Yeah, and we've been diving into it with Mike from Faraday and also Michael Boyd and JP Jeremiah joined the technicians there a lot. And with the right piezoelectric transducers and I forget the name of the measuring devices, equipment, but that there's actual real fields that come off of Organite, and that it is an actual real science measurable energies that exist from this technology.
Well, Rife was playing around with it. Was it Rife? It was Rife, wasn't it?
Royal Rife, I think he was.
Was it Rife who made the machine that you sat inside?
It was. It was a German name. Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't Rife. It was the other one.
It'll come to me. It will come to me. We need Mike here. He'd be.
He was basically you know, they took all his research from him. I think they threw him in jail. So
yeah, they threw him in jail.
That should tell you that it works.
Yeah, exactly. Steiner. It'll come to me, his name. Rudolf Steiner. Is it Rudolf Steiner?
Steiner. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Steiner.
I might end up just doing
Yeah, we are orgonite, right? Orgonite energy, it's both static electric but bioelectric energy. And it's magnetic conductive energy also. And that's something that Benjamin, I'm sure you're going to get right into, is the orgone energy through the chakra system, essentially, correct?
Yes. Well, we're going to get through the way energy flows, a lot of it. So for me, hold on. Okay. Why won't it let me do this? I'm going to have to do an entire screen for just 1 second. I'm going to have to do an entire screen for just 1 second so we can all look at the galvanic cells. Let me do this internet thing.
That was like a German.
So this is the galvanic cell. And it's a very basic thing. Bernie works on this. He works more on the electrolysis side, which is just the opposite of the galvanic side. So when you're looking at it as a battery, you've got over here, you've got a anode. Over here, you've got a cathode. And so this, the particles break apart over here. You can see what we call an electron for basic terminology flows over here and basically impregnates the cathode, and then the ions flow over through the mercurial fluid. And because this has picked up now a negative charge from the electron that went directly over here. Now the ion's going to get pulled over here, the positive side. They're going to come back together, and it's going to then produce usable electricity. And there's a little exchange over here. Instead of just your anion's going to then flow this way. But at the end of it, this anode ends up depleting, and this cathode ends up
oversized,
growing. And I can actually show you some perfect examples live of what you're talking about, the anode degrading and the cathode gaining, in my alchemy or electrolysis demonstration right in front of us right now.
So was that like a lead acid type battery that you just showed, was it? So there needs to be a flow to get access to the electricity, the electrons.
So with galvanic, it can be just about anything, but the anode has to be more degradatory than the cathode, because then where what Bernie's doing is pushing electricity so they can actually be the same thing. In order for it to work in the galvanic style, the one has to be able to degrade more than the other. So then the one comes apart and flows to the other. And then you can set up a series of these cathode to anode and make them more degradatory as it goes along. So when you're looking, now then we all everybody here has the basics of alchemy understood. So we all know that the luminaries tie to different metals. And so what we have and what I've worked on for quite some time is, well, then the sun is gold and the moon is silver. And this is your cathode and your anode. And then it moves on in order of degradation all the way down to lead. So what we have is a series of cells that are feeding the moon, and that's why the moon's the receiver of energy. And silver does that. It picks up radiation. And then this moon, when it fills with this radiation, becomes a full moon, then it sends that off to the sun. It's basically an ejaculation. They, a lot of the legends tie that to the erect penis. So like even with like Egyptian, Osiris, where there's been a lot of misinterpretations of the Egyptian, but Osiris breaks apart into 14 pieces, which is the waning moon. And then he gets put back together in 14 pieces, which is the waxing moon, except for his penis, which Isis, the sun, uses to impregnate herself over and over again. So you have the moon, which is the anode in the silver, filling up and see. Now, the funny thing about silver is when it's in its particle state, when energy soaks into it, which again, solar panels, which we're going to talk about later, and photo equipment, things like that, they already know that silver's soaks in radiation. Well, when it does, that radiation forms bonds between the silver particles, and it ends up looking solid, which is what the moon's doing. That's why it's becoming more and more full as it's soaking in the radiation. And once it's
off cold heat, right? Because it's drawing heat in.
Right. Yeah. Right. And it's throwing off, it's giving off a luminescence of its own as those energy bonds are breaking. Yeah. And now that it's got solidity, it's subject to degradation, and it degrades itself and then impregnates the sun. And then the sun releases that Ostara energy, that morning energy. Can you bring me an ice water, honey? That morning energy that the world can use, or the baby. That's why that has that special, that spring sun, that morning sun that carries with it the gold and the dew, because that's that release of that impregnated energy.
Yeah, wow.
Right.
Wow. That is interesting.
Yeah. So that's an extraordinarily short version. I'm sorry. But that's like a like 2 or 3 hour presentation all on its own. So that's what we have going on as the world. Well, also that's the galvanic side. So where it comes in really interesting, and where I originally had contacted you to get your perspective on it was, well, then when the world gets deplete, what happens is, and just like when a galvanic battery gets deplete, it needs a recharge. And that's the electrolysis side, which is what Bernie works on. And as the electrolysis side happens, everything reverses, and the cathode actually breaks apart and starts sending itself to the lower ends, and they end up starting growing. And so on the galvanic side, lead is literally turning into gold. And on the electrolysis side, this reverses, and it turns around and lowers itself, because you're sending the power through it and breaking that gold apart. Well, as a heathen, we have Ragnarok. And during Ragnarok, Surt and his army of fire giants ride their horses through the 9 realms, which is the 9 worlds, and burn everything to ash. This is an electrical discharge. Now, if you look at the way the Earth is set up, then we have the opposite of the positive is the negative. You have to have your lodestone, right? And that's where your ley lines come into play. And my wife's in the shower. She's definitely not getting me an ice water. Ice water, please. Oh, Doc's getting me one. So where these discharges are going to happen is on these ley line points, which also happens to be where these major city centers were, which is where we've had these events that all these people go missing, and the mud floods. And the mud floods are coming from the electrolysis process, just like I have an electrolysis machine right here that breaks apart water into hydrogen and oxygen. And after running that, just like with Bernie's experiments that he's showing you right here, this sludge appears. And that sludge is like magic because that sludge is like magic. Sorry.
Hello, boys.
Yeah, you know, one of the guys walked out. One of the guys walked outside and walked back in. It was very scary. Got a jug of water and walked back in. So when George, you have to clean out this machine, the one I use, every now and then because this sludge will build up. So George Weissman, the guy who invented it, for 3 years he collected this sludge and he'd clean the machine out and put the water in the lye. He uses the lye as a electrolyte, and he would just strain that sludge out. After 3 years, he ended up collecting 19 pounds of this sludge. Well, he took the electrodes out. They all still weighed the same as they did when he put them in the machine. Wow. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Right. So this is like magic sludge that's just
been created from like its fourth state or something. Have you come across Archaic's work?
I had started talking to him, but similar to like you guys, us guys that are doing so many things, it takes a while sometimes.
He talked about there's been, I think he said 6 or 7 different times in history where it's been recorded that brown dirt has fallen from the sky, and like to the point where ships were getting covered in it and they were having to sweep it off the decks to stop from sinking and stuff. Like so much was coming down.
Right. And this is just magic sludge. It appears from the electrolysis process. And the things that would survive would be like stone.
Yeah.
You know, the stone isn't affected particularly by electricity. So all these old brick buildings, these old monolithic structures would survive these kind of things just fine. Now the people and the organic matter and whatnot, that's getting cooked. Yeah. And then the people that aren't in these nexus points that are in the outer areas, they're going to be a lot more, better off too, because they're not going to be where the discharge in and of itself is happening. So you have galvanic and electrolysis. So then when you look at the Yuga cycles, this is part of why it's split perfectly in the gold and in the nasty Kali Yuga, why that split happens. So look at a battery recharging. The Kali Yuga is a crap battery, and then it's electrolysis, charging, and then boom, you go into galvanic, and then it discharges. And just like in all the stories, when the end times are coming, things start getting wonky. People start acting real weird. Crops don't grow. Things get real goofy. Well, you look at your cell phone. When your cell phone's fully charged, it works great. When it's 50% battery, all of a sudden it starts slowing down and apps don't pull up very quickly. And then when it's like 30%, you're hitting the B button and it's typing H and you're like, no. Things start getting pretty wonky. So then I had given a talk, two different episodes on Crow. I had talked about the cell salts in the body. So we look at the human body, and I was trying to tie the human body to the
just to go back one step for 1 sec, with the battery that so if the moon's charging up the sun, is the like the Phoenix event or the electricity discharge, is that the sun discharging because it has then built up such a charge that it then needs to discharge? Is that what's going on?
Or potentially it could be the moon, because the moon's closer to us, right?
Well, the moon's the anode and the sun's the cathode, and then Polaris is. And then Polaris is what is actually God. That's what's charging the whole system.
That's where the blue beam comes from, isn't it?
Right. So Polaris, and even Christianity, like they even understood this, and now it's gotten weird. So check this out. Like the Gnostics, and God stays perfectly still, which is Polaris, and he's there all the time, never moves. And then the good angels or the constellations revolve and dance in perfect harmony to God. And then the bad angels, the fallen angels, or the wandering stars, all are rejects from God. And they all kind of roam around doing this thing that's not in perfect time with Polaris. And this also includes the sun and the moon. So the sun is Lucifer, and the whole thing is being, and so Polaris is what's actually feeding the system.
So there has to be another body then, right? Or at least some background machinery for Polaris
somewhere
to be
but
involved.
We can't see it.
But we can't. Yeah, so it's either, because that's another thing Jason mentioned, is there's been at least 2 points where people have seen machinery in the sky. So they're either part of something bigger, or there's another body that's somehow connecting that force to Polaris. I mean, there's got to be, right? It can't just be those three things, because it's not.
Well, and then it also, like I said, then it goes into the lower luminaries, and then we live basically on top of the sludge in Bernie's jars. The sludge that forms, that's what we live on, right? Yeah, and then underneath,
magic dirt world.
Yeah. And then underneath is the negative charge, and that's where, because for me, we live inside the cosmic egg. I mean, we live on a flat plane, but there's a dome above us and a dome below us. So I mean, just our plane is flat. So then, as a right, the plane of inversion, exactly. So allow.
Yeah. So the way I see it is like the first dimensional plane, the first perspective is your flat plane. Your third dimensional perspective is like your sphere or your triangle, and your toroid is your 10th dimensional, like full all of time universe. And like your 8th dimension essentially is like the infinity loop, looping all of time back into that overall toroid, connecting your toroid to your flat disk to them all, right? And then in between them is those platonic solids that make up the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 7th, and then 9th is like the inverted loop back into itself, the macro to micro, connecting the outside to the inside of your toroid, from the expansion into that contraction.
Right.
What would you call that? The force, the direction.
Right. Well, it's kind of like the fractals of it all. Maybe it's like the universal operating system, whatever it is. So it's like,
did you say 9 levels?
Different dimensions.
Did you say 9?
10 total, because the toroid, the 0, because the toroid is the 10th, but it's also 0 and 10 simultaneously.
Okay, that's right.
It is everything.
It doesn't exist, really.
And then
the 0 doesn't really exist, does it?
And then anywhere from a toroid, right? You take one slice anywhere through the center of a toroid, what do you have? You have your disk. You have your first plane of information of that one moment of time, or that one perspective of time from anywhere. That one electrical field. It's that first dimension disk of the overall toroid that is everything.
I'm not telling me I've got 10 levels to go through, are you? Because that sounds very tiring.
Oh, it's worse than that. So this is the tree of life that I was gifted by Odin. This is I don't have visions and things, but I was given this by Odin. And he reminded me that he's 3 trees and not 1. So this is a representation of the human body. and basically everything else. So what we got here is, as an alchemist, this is your sulfur, and this is your mercury, and this is your salt. As an Odinist, this is your Odin, Vili, and Ve. So what's going on when you're doing alchemy? If I'm to break apart a plant, I break the plant apart. The first thing I do is I remove the oil side, and that's this purple and this blue. Now the blue is the actual ego, and the purple, or I'm going to remove the purple, just the purple. I'm sorry, I'm very tired. Just the purple, and this high tree is going to go out, and I'm going to pull out this Ve and this Vili, and we're going to distill this out, and this is going to be your oil and your sulfur. And then I'm going to take this other side, and I'm going to calcinate it, which means I'm going to burn it down in a crucible. And inside the crucible, this is your earth level, your ego. And this is why Odin sacrifices himself to himself. So the three things that belong to the earth that you're going to give up in this tree is here's your water, and that's the first thing that leaves. Here's your carbon, and carbon's really weird, right? Carbon can be solid, and then if you put it under fire, it will evaporate like water. Like a gas. It's very interesting. And that's actually on the plane of inversion. So you can see right here where your heart chakra is the plane of inversion, where these two trees, oil tree and your salt tree, are tying together right here over the heart, or the plane of inversion. And then the carbon tree comes in and locks these two into place. So this carbon body was holding the oil and the salt together, because oil wants to vaporize and salt wants to solidify and sink, and oil wants to vaporize and rise. So this carbon body's holding these two polar opposites together. And that's why, as an alchemist, I'm going to break them apart and catch them and force just this and this back together. Oh, and this is the ash. I almost forgot that. This is the ash there, and the part that's actually solid, and that comes away as ash. And then that's one of the last things you pour out in a slurry, and you strain it out, and then you're left with the salt. So then you marry the salt and the sulfur, and that's where the alchemical marriage happens, is these two coming together through the sacrifice of this.
And so when you're talking right now, even like you're using the ancient alchemical text or like wording for it, but you're also explaining it essentially high chemistry and cold fusion in layman's terms of like alchemy wording. It's amazing. I'm loving every minute of this, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So when you're looking, everything above this plane of inversion is going to be the oil, the sulfur side, and everything below is going to be the salt side. Now, for some reason in today's society, everything salt is vilified. We can see vile. It's pronounced Billy in Old Norse, but it's vile, vilify, demons, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's trying to ascend. And that's your sulfur side and your sun side. And so it's very interesting. As an alchemist, you try and marry these two. You actually need this highest to marry to this very lowest, because they pair off. Dink, 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 dink. And then when you do that, the whole thing settles out on this plane of inversion. Okay. So then you start adding in the feminine side. And what we have is there's going to be a big circle here and one here too. So we can see where that makes this is your three minds, or your three eyes. This is your all-seeing eye. This is your all-knowing eye. And this is your will. This is you. Then up here, you can see this is your white, your pure white. As a heathen, this is going to be Heimdall. Heimdall is the all white of the gods, and he's born of 9 mothers. So the way your Kundalini energy rises up, and it starts from the bottom, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He sits on top of it. He sits over the rainbow bridge, where then the colors are all down below him. Blah blah. Sorry. Anyways, back over here. So the black's down here, and the white's up here, and the colors are in between. This is where the fractals of the white and all the colors and none of the colors, right? Now, then, like I was starting to say, with the talk with Crow, so the way it breaks down with the way the human body forms when you're talking about the crystallus fluid, which I'm going to stop sharing screen for just 1 minute while I talk about this. When you look at the Salts of Salvation, you guys know about that book, right?
Is that the one that Santos read? Yeah, the Salts of Salvation. Is that what you said?
I might have even more homework ahead of me now.
Yeah, the Salts of Salvation.
Yeah. I think Dr.
Dr. Carey. It's seminal. It talks about all the way the different mineral salts break down and what
12, is that right?
What cells. There's 12. Yeah.
Research by chance, or no?
I was gifted mine by my producer, but yeah, it's you can find it on PDF. I'm pretty positive.
I'll have to pick that one up for sure.
It's called
and
the
this
Zodiac.
It's called the
Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. It's the Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. And so it also ties it to the Zodiac. Yeah. And so then Scorpio, Scorpio, it talks about his calcium sulfate, and then Sagittarius is silicea, and so it goes through the entire body, and it goes through the forming. And this is by an actual doctor, and actually there's a couple doctors in on this, and it talks about how you're formed as a human, as a baby, and it says so the way the salts and the way the cell salts are working. So it starts with your cerebrum, and then it goes to your cerebellum. Well, and it starts with your that crown descends into your cerebrum and your cerebellum, and then it goes to your mercury, and then your heart, lung area, and then it goes all the way down. This is your Christos fluid. So when it started out, it was this perfect seed. But as it goes down, all these minerals are added to it. And it gets all the way down to the sacrum. And there it gestates a little bit. And that's what we're talking about. Like with a man, it's in your prostate. And in your prostate, those, that's all your genetic material, all the DNA to make literally an entire civilization and all the energy. And so the last thing to form is actually the forebrain, and then it went through the growing cycle, and now it has to go through basically the dissension cycle where you're separating wheat from chaff, and you're losing that material until it gets back up into that perfect seed, but it's through a multiplication because it went through that cycle the same as a plant. So this is the way that the human body is formed. And then as it goes up, then it's the Aquarian because it's now been impregnated and it's got all the life in it. And then it goes to the forebrain, or you ejaculate it out and it's now used to make a whole new life rather than the further development of yours. So you start looking at the sky then.
So,
and sorry, I'm rushing through all this, guys. I'm trying to get to here. And this is where I have here's kind of, now this is what I'm working on currently. Okay.
Is that
So
why
as a
young, horny dudes are stupid, like teenage men running around root and everything? Is that why they're stupid? Because they're getting rid of that stuff and it's easy to make themselves smarter.
Yeah. They're wasting all that. They're wasting it all over the place. Yeah, they should be sending that up to their forebrain, but now they're putting it in a sock, in an old sock.
Sorry, right before you continue there, Ben, what I have with Bert and Ernie camera there, you see how red that is? That is actually a copper pipe. That is copper in the full red state, what the alchemist and Isaac Newton calls the transmutational red mercurial state. And that is a pure copper pipe that, since it's surrounded by the monoatomic aluminum, has activated this copper into the pure red state. And that, I believe, is when it's essentially probably superconductive, and when the alchemists state that metals can be transmutated from one solid metal into another. And that I'm talking to John Hutchinson on figuring out the resonant frequencies of metals, and then I will start experimenting putting in these resonant frequencies to the metals when they're in this red mercurial state. And on that note, I have to state
salts that go into it too, like because ormacin and other
water right now.
Right.
The salt has to activate it as well. Some good synchronicity there. 222 people watching right as Campbell's at 66,600 subscribers. Illuminati confirmed, as Richie from the Magic Treehouse would say. I just had to bug you on that one. And now I'll let you get back to it, Ben, and I'll put up the 3 laws of alchemy, which it goes over the metals and the heavenly bodies there, if you want to talk about that or the rest of your presentation, but it'll be my little interpretation.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Let me finish this here. Okay.
So yeah,
then
guys,
we'll get into that.
I don't want to be Illuminati anymore, so you have to subscribe to my channel if you're not, and if you are, then you have to get 10 more people to come and subscribe to my channel and save me from the Illuminamis.
Yes. Do not let them get him.
We can't have save me. Six satanic weird numbers right now. We need to get them to be 693, the Cepheggio Tesla number instead.
Yeah, man. Let's go to 96,300. That'll be good. 963.
So then I was having a conversation about the heart, and here's what really ticked this whole deal off. All right. Well, the way the heart works is you've got iron, which is tied to Mars, and iron is drawing in oxygen, and it's repelling hydrogen. Now, copper on the flip side will draw in hydrogen and repel oxygen. So this is the red blood and blue blood, and this is what's causing the polarity and the push-pull in this whole system. Well, then, like I said originally, when the brain's forming, well, it's right there, the gold of the brain, and that's in so many different cosmologies and myths. The gold of the cerebrum and the silver of the cerebellum. And all cerebrum and cerebellum is the same as cerebrum, but bellum with bellum, at war. So these two are polarized things. Right. And so we have the polarity of the anode and the cathode. Well, then you have it comes, so it goes from the Polaris, the crown, and then descends into the...
And that's the sun and the moon.
Right. Sun,
and then
moon.
No way.
And then we go to Mercury, which is Mercury's the green lion that eats the sun and then passes it down to the other stars in its back. It makes the transition between these platinum level metals and these lower metals happen, right? So then you got your Mercury, and then you go down into your iron and copper heart polarity, and then that descends down, and this is your plane of inversion, and then that descends.
Is Mercury related to the ether?
Yes, but it's because it makes this transition happen. Mercury's a whole talk in and of itself. I actually did a 2-hour thing on Crow about Mercury.
Yeah, but I mean, looking at it, if we're coming down, we've got Polaris at the top, then below that we've got the sun and the moon, then we have the ether, and then below that we have the iron, which is the earth, the plane of inertia, like I said. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is making the transition between Earth and the heavens happen. The Mercury is. Yeah, it's all in all the different mythologies. It's cool, right?
So, and the bit that the transition is the throat, which is where we speak things into existence, right?
Yes, and where you manifest, right? Yeah. And then here, this is your will. This is part of why. Now, remember all the beings under here, the vial, the villi, the demons. Well, the reason angels don't have free will is because they're up here. Well, your will chakra is right here. So they don't have it. They exist up here. They don't have will at all because they're too etheric. They can't affect reality. So they're just guys watching the movie, screaming at the dummies in the movie. Like they know what's going on, but they can't affect it. They don't have no will. And so here's your will, the Jupiter or Tin, the giver of good things. Then that descends again into your sacral, which is going to be another polarity of Saturn and Uranus, the sky father and time who tears off the genitals, and that's lead and aluminum. Now, and then it descends into Neptune, which is your root, which is lithium. And lithium ties things to the salt side because this is just the sky side. And as above, so below, the sky side and the salt side should match. So there's this whole same setup in the earth. But this is the luminary set. And then magnetically, you got, hold on. So as you're starting on the Neptune, lithium is paramagnetic, and aluminum's paramagnetic.
Okay. So now, Uranus, which is literally urine and anus, is literally right there.
Right.
That's bizarre.
Exactly. Like it's so on the nose when you put it all together. And so then these two are at polarity. So this one's paramagnetic and this one's diamagnetic. But because this is still below the plane of inversion, even though it's on the feminine side, it has a free electron. It has two of them, but they're paired, right? So crazy, right? So then tin is paramagnetic, and copper is diamagnetic, and iron is ferromagnetic and paramagnetic, kind of the same. Then you go up here, all the rest of these are diamagnetic. So we have magnetic down here and not magnetic up here. So your energy's flowing up. Your magnetic energy is flowing up through here. And because of those polarities, you're getting the snake energy. So it's going, just like, yeah, like your DNA or like your Kundalini energy. Well, then the funny thing is gold and platinum, even though neither of them is magnetic, if you mix gold and platinum, it becomes magnetic. And so the snakehead wraps around and bites the fucking tail. Not even shitting, right? You can even look that up. Gold and platinum. So if you look at this, it looks more like a snake without the body. So as it's rising up, and then it hits right here. It snaps around and bites itself, and the snake head bites the tail. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, man. Jeez. Gosh, and all you people thought heathen wisdom was silly. That's cool. Have you heard of the zetetic heart? Oh God, that's probably wrong. Basically, there's this doctor, and he was a heart surgeon, and he was working on the heart his whole life, and he figured out that the heart's a tube because he was trying to work out how it was possible that it could pump, all the blood around, but through all the, veins and that get ever smaller, so it needs more and more pressure the further it goes. And he's going, this doesn't work out. And so he worked out that that the heart's not a pump; it's not pumping the blood around. Yeah. It's this tube. So there's some other force going on, which sounds like what you're talking about is also going to be powering the circulatory system, shall we say?
Right. Well, and see, when you look at the way the human body works, okay, everything we take in, we need to oxygenate, which means we need to break it down. So just like when I was talking about in the plant alchemy, where you burn off the carbon and stuff, well, even when it gets down to glucose, we don't use sugar or glucose. There's still a carbon molecule that's making that glucose stable that you need to take out, so that will become an unstable molecule and will bond into you and allow you to take in that energy by bonding to you, so that it needs to be decarbonated. And then the carbon needs a vehicle to get out of your body, which is your oxygen. So you breathe out the CO2, and the oxygen takes that carbon out. Well, then on the flip side, when you want to fuse things in, that needs to happen through hydrogen. So oxygen is the negative part of mercury, of the water, which is the mercury of this level. Oxygen's the negative, it's taking away, and hydrogen is giving. That's where the transaction's happening, because mercury's got both, right? And so this is what's happening in your heart, your mercury, your heart center, and it's taking that mercury and pushing it back and forth and making them transitions, and it's all energetic. Bernie!
Wow. I had a question that I lost when you were talking.
Can you hear me? I'm listening to everything. I'm loving it.
Stop playing with your lasers.
I'm just showing the different densities and how some of these metals can actually levitate or float within, and they reach these different exclusion zones. Easy water is called, where there's, see right here, the top inch, there's 0 particles, and then the next inch it's filled with cloudy particles, and then an inch below that you actually have a bunch of metals floating, staying there, which is defying gravity as well. So
is that density or is that charge?
Sorry?
No, that's charge. That's charge.
That's charge. It's all charge. And then there's another exclusion zone right at the bottom. So it's like easy zone, particles, easy zone with like charged clusters, and then another cloud followed by another easy exclusion zone at the top. And what this is, Jared Pollard's work, I believe, is the professor out of Washington State University that's come up with this easy water. It's the TED Talk, fourth phase of water, fourth state of water, I think it's called, that he does it. But it shows that they've proven that these exclusion zones, as water and these particles self-organizing into a battery, the exclusion zone is negative, the particle zone is positive, and that they're alternating, so that the salt water itself is a natural battery all on its own.
That's interesting. We're in a bathhouse. So
I'm not sure how well could you guys hear me there. Did that come through clear?
Well, it was well enough. Yeah. It was good enough. So these
So then,
falls
Jordan,
the next question is like, are these salt
right
lakes?
now, like Roy's talking with him.
Sorry, I talked at the same time.
All of us, too excited. Antsy and the Pantsy.
I was saying that the next question, though, with this easy water is like, are lakes, seas, and oceans actually mega batteries, Earth batteries, with their alternating layers? Because if you look into lakes and oceans, especially when they're frozen, you'll see the same exclusion zones going up and down.
100%.
And then that essentially is a giant charged battery all on its own. That's a super battery.
And above us, same above us.
Yeah. Exactly.
The same rises as we get higher in the atmosphere. Voltage rises.
Like all of the clouds. Like I've now begun to just like in my own mind, when I see the world, clouds are plasma. They're not gaseous. They're not liquid. They're not solid. They're plasma. And that they're plasma particles that are these giant charged electromagnetical fusion centers, essentially, of hydrogen, oxygen, and electricity.
You're saying rain's created by the smashing together of molecules, basically, like they form H2O up in the sky, and that falls as water.
Yeah, exactly.
Not evaporation and all this kind of thing that we're taught. It's more of a H2O, is created from a soup of different molecules, and then it falls as water.
Yeah, right. Like out of hydrogen and oxygen that are the most prevalent in air.
Bound.
And then released
exactly.
from
just cycling, just
the biocycle, the biosphere, part of the biosphere, I guess.
Well, this is the thing about what's called evaporation, the whole evaporation cycle. I mean, if that's true, shouldn't the seas constantly be getting saltier?
That's why fresh water is
because there's
underneath. Fresh water is breathing from underneath your primary water.
Circles it, and then you also have the rivers emptying in too, right? And like the glaciers.
I suppose you could say that. Yeah.
It's a tough call, and there's certain areas that are saltier than others.
You're still going to lose a ton of water on the land that gets soaked into the land and turns into trees, right? Well, and you can't evaporate salt into the sky, so that'll get stuck. So
exactly, and that's like the whole water cycle. It's a lot different. Like it's not quite. There's definitely something fishy with what they teach in geology. Like in hyuniversity, I took 3 or 4 years of majoring in geology, and it's like it just never made the hydraulic system just didn't make quite sense with like the aquifers, the underground caves, your groundwater, the pressurization of it. And then like Paul Cook, we were going to have on Friday, he does a lot. He's brought up this subject of like going to where springs start, going to where rivers start. And it's like, it just looks like a tap going plumbing straight up into it. And it's like, where is it coming? You're on top of a mountain. How is this water getting up there? It has to be shot up in this natural plumbing system, not necessarily being dropped or deposited by rain a lot of the time.
And they call that primary water. If you've ever looked at Gaddafi, they say Gaddafi found primary water.
Yeah, the largest aquifer in Africa under the desert.
And it's just fresh water that's coming from under the earth, and it just keeps coming. Fresh water that the earth just breathes up. You look at what are those called, a terrarium, where they can seal those up and it'll just keep cycling and cycling. We're in a sealed system, we live
like 100 years old.
Right. So it'll go through cycles where it's saltier sometimes and less salty, but then the electroconductivity changes depending on the salt level, which again, when it gets too salty, it's going to get too high of an electroconductivity and you're going to get a discharge and then you're going to get the rainfall. So, it's all going to cycle.
That's a balance. Yeah, right. It's a balancing sort of system. Yeah, right. Jeez, that's not what they told us, eh? So
no,
it's what it's just. So basically, there's no moisture being sucked up into the sky through heat. It's just there's stuff up there, and they're getting bound together. And
well, there definitely is some moisture being sucked up for sure. Like that is still part of it. I just don't think it's all of it. Is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they want us to kind of think that it gets hot and literally this water sort of gets sucked up and then it turns into a cloud and goes across and then falls back down again. But
and this will also ties into the moon and the alchemical cathode anode system that we're talking about, as they've recently, NASA, like never a straight answer, but they're saying that the surface of the moon is covered with a shit ton of O3 that shouldn't be there, as well as like pure hydrogen or something that shouldn't be there, and that like it's flowing. They've measured the ions of hydrogen and oxygen flowing to the Earth to the moon.
Hold on. Hydrogen, which is highly explosive.
Good point. And they took rocket engines down there.
And oxygen makes the explosion happen, no problem. So the two elements to make the
ozone that they're finding, because it's O3.
That's what I'm saying. They landed a rocket on that or flew through it with fire at all, and things didn't just go whoosh.
No doubt.
And this is like, how do they know that they've got to be trying to say they're using spectrometry or something? Spectrometry, is that right? Because they lost all the telemetry.
Spectrophy. I can never say it right either. I need to get one of those machines.
Yeah, they lost all the telemetry, so they can't go back anyway. So they're not getting that information from being there. Well, clearly because they'd explode. But so it's one of these stories. We've got a machine we pointed at and it told us that there's these gases there. I mean, explain how that works. Seriously. I mean, I know they're going to say, "Oh, but in infrared,
well,
this molecule."
They say it's by light spectrum, but all that changes too, because just depending on how fast the light's moving and what the settings are, like there's so many different things with what they call science. Like everybody's taught that water freezes at 32 degrees. Really? Well, that just entirely depends on the atmospheric pressure, because if I take and I throw that same water at 32 degrees into a heavy enough vacuum, I can make it boil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And right, like the densities of what they claim
waterboarding at 100 degrees. Oh, sorry, Ben. What'd you say?
Like just how they claim like the density of the sun, the moon, and the different planets, and like now taking a second look at it from the alchemical perspective, and then also from the density perspective, like you just said, it's all electromagnetics as opposed to this hot BS nuclear system that they think or originally claim and try to tell everybody.
It's all balls, isn't it? It's all balls. They want us to believe everything's little molecules flying around and in this mechanical kind of system. But Ken Wheeler would say everything's fields.
Yeah, I actually have been talking to Ken, and
breaking into polarity and coming back together, just breaking into a polarity and coming back together. And it's always the same particle.
Why the vesica particle.
Like with what Bernie's doing, where the particle's breaking apart, and where I showed in the galvanic cell, the electrons jumping, and then the ions coming over, and they're coming back together, and then literally the one metal is turning into the other metal because one side's getting heavier and one side's depleting. But the particle was always the same particle. Transmutation.
Yeah. And of course, what's happening in the world at the moment on the left side? More transmutation. Good on board.
The constant transmutation. It's the Alchemist.
They want to transmutate 6-year-olds, man. Bloody hell. Sorry.
So
were you
we're going
saying
for
about
an
Ken? I
hour
think you
now.
got broken over.
Should we do a little break and then come back on the solar panel electrical stuff, or
Yeah.
are you guys still get? Should we play a little video?
I could use a toilet run.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm old too.
You're up, all right. I've got, I think, what's the longest one we got? 3 minutes. Oh, 4 minutes 32.
4:32. It is beautiful.
Nice
Old
number.
man
Right, frequency, you can get it. All right, we'll see you back in 4:32.
Being autodidactic, the self-educated on what's actually out there.
He's trying to rediscover, research, remember. With what's gone on in the last few years, it's like, can we really trust the information we've been given about anything? You know, if they're not going to tell us what's good for us, for our mental and physical well-being, then why would they tell us the truth about where we came from? You know, because that's the biggest thing, is people don't want to believe they've been lied to. You know, obviously no one wants to be lied to. And then the next bit after that is, they would never do that to us. You know, the government loves us, but does it really? Because we trust the science. Like literally, they put on a front for us on their Tell Live Vision, where they have their cast and they do a broadcast from Hollywood with their little holly wands. But it's just a front, right? Just like they'd put on the buildings. It's just a front.
We used their foundations and then covered it with a facade. Catastrophism used to be taught in higher education as the geology. It wasn't the crustal displacement theory, it was catastrophism, and that there was many resets. So we're just starting to put the pictures back together and the maps and trying to add everything up, because so much has been deleted.
Tartaria. Where did it come from? What's the real story?
It seems like, and there's a lot of, debate about the word Tartaria, and of course, we use it because, it's a topic, that's the word people know, but it's the old world. But the more we look into this, Tartaria, basically in the old encyclopedia says it was basically the whole northern hemisphere at one point. So it seems that it was not a country as we think of them, but more of a civilization, I guess, where there was independent countries, but they were all sharing the same information and technology and working together. Yeah, and then basically over time, during catastrophes, it got broken apart, and those people who like to take advantage, shall we say, sort of jumped in and stole it all.
It's the same civilization, that same Slavic civilization and technology and whatnot, or group that later was Tartaria, and then I guess broke apart. It would have been right before the World Wars, right? That would have been the last remnants being wiped out.
The censorship that we see now, that's a book burning. That's just a book burning, but done on the internet.
Burn it.
Time. And the calendars and the dates, they're always flipping calendars around, right? From Julian to Gregorian. We talked about the Slavic calendar being, in the year 7000. We know that Judaism is in the year 5000 somewhere. All these different dates, and we're told we're in the year 2022. But are we? And what does that even mean? Right? How can we be in the year 2022 if someone else is in the year 5000 and something, and someone else is in the year 7000, right?
Right, the grand cycle, and why so many ancient civilizations paid so much attention to it, and measuring the megalithic structures that have lasted throughout all of time. That's the grand celestial calendar to this day. And it's why they're trying to have this great reset yet again right now, because everybody's waking up, so they want to try to erase it all over again.
Don't ever try this at home.
gotta get back to the. Ooh, fine. Well, sorry I can't be there. I.
Do your thing, and I'm gonna like grab like a drink and some food,
Okay.
and then I'll
Hello.
And we are right in the middle. It was that's the break.
Yeah. Lucky you got back. Missed the 32, did we? I was rushing, and then I just heard this music. I thought, what the hell? Bernie's having a dance party.
We got extra clips. Campbell's done such a good job. So much editing, my friend. It's amazing.
Got to get those clips out there, man. We need some, if there's anyone out there who does original music, I know you do, Ben. We still haven't got any of yours up, but any original music you want, we can chuck some pictures to it and play it now.
I actually got my old laptop working over the past few days, so I can access the hard drive and start uploading some of my original music from the old record label. Put to use the 500 songs, original tracks, and instrumentals. Finally,
send me some over, and I shall dolly them up with some pictures. Put some makeup on them.
Beautify the art. Beautify.
Yes, indeed. All right, what do we got here? 215 of you watching us. Thanks for being here. Isness, how you going? Oh, and look at my little. You see that? Copper lion. Hello. How cool is that? It's even got little feet.
That thing is so awesome.
Isn't it? And
there's real electromagnetic properties behind it.
This is from Isness, yes. So there you go. Tammy Shirk, hello, guacamole kid. Oh, look at that. So I've got copper all over me at the moment. I'm just a walking bloody electrode. But
well, we all are though, right? So
yeah, I'm trying to
a few of the coils I've made over the years. This one's a new doodad. When I put a ring magnet around it, it actually feels lighter of all things. It's pretty.
What we need to do, so you can get like a bolt, can't you? Like seal, wrap copper around it, and connect that to a light bulb, and it'll work. Yeah, is that right?
Say that again. Wrap what around? Copper around what?
Wind copper around like a big, I guess, iron bolt. Have you seen that done?
I have not. I think that would work. It'd take a fair amount of resistance electricity, but it'd start producing light. But a lot of heat with that too. If it's to get that amount of iron producing that much light, I would think.
Let me see. I'm sorry, Shannon. I can't even speak. This dude's using spark plugs.
That would create a giant electromagnet.
Oh yeah, this one.
Wouldn't it?
Hang on a sec. Let me.
Ooh, it's 11:11 here in Calgary, Alberta, right now too.
Oh, it's 1:11 here. 1:11. All right, so I just found this. So let me quickly share my screen. So he gets his bolt. Oh, he's got.
Oh, I think. Oh, power it. Yes, you said hook it up to a light bulb and power it. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Sorry. Yeah, this little free energy device video. Let's play it. I think there's serious potential in this.
Yeah, well, I want to make one just for a little desk light. You know, I mean, why not, right? But to start with,
exactly, and like at least to test it, I'm gonna start. They're so simple, cheap parts, and there's so many of them. Like, we got to start replicating them and seeing if they're working, because it looks like they're using inductive magnetism to create the charge and the flow of electricity through it. That it's worth trying out, right? Like, it's $5 worth of materials tops.
Yeah, or just, you know, go through like a bin or walk past the local scrapyard and you just find it lying on the ground.
Literal scraps. That's so true. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab my solar panel thing to talk about here as well. So cool. I'll be watching from my cell phone. So that's two of them, 2 chargers. So you'd have your positive, negative coming from that.
Yep. And he's just putting through bolts. Now we get the light bulb. Yeah. Yeah, come on, put the light bulb in. Oh, come on, dude. So there you go. Oh, where am I? Yeah, free energy. Well, that you send that in. Pretty spun out. I forgot the magnet bit. You need the magnet. Have you seen? Here you go. Explain this one to me, Ben, if I can find it. Some people may have seen this the other night. Have a look at this.
I love you. Shakira. A little bit. Down. Down. What the hell? Oh my god. How are you doing that? Oh my god.
Pretty
That's
cool.
hilarious. I don't know.
But I mean, it proves right, that we're
if that kid was
that kind of
carrying a ton of static electricity, I don't know what the fuck.
You reckon that's what it was, or you reckon it's just like because we're
And
electrical?
once you're touching it to its tongue, it was getting the transfer. You know, the moisture of the tongue. The first one, I don't necessarily understand what's going on with that first one. Like,
I've seen a few different versions of it, and they're always the same kind of basic setup, just the big metal bolt, copper wrapped around it, and a magnet. So the copper around the metal would create a field, and then the magnet would introduce another field. Not that I know what I'm talking about.
And the magnet's going to react differently from the copper and the iron. The iron's ferromagnetic and copper's diamagnetic. So the copper's actually going to push. The copper's actually going to push away from the field, and the iron, you know, is iron. You know, that's ferromagnetic.
Okay, so it's doing something to the introducing the magnet is making the copper do what push away from the bolt, is it?
Well, and push away from the magnet also.
And from the magnet, so it's being squashed. So piezo, some kind of piezo thing. Because then he had it directly hooked up with wires too. It wasn't wireless. So would that piezo force be sending electrons through?
Right. And that would be the only thing that makes sense. Is copper piezoelectric?
Oh, Crypt, what? Bernie's in the chat. What are you doing? I'll answer more on the free energy when I get back in. What are you doing in the chat, Bernie? You're supposed to be in the stream, dude. Oh, we got here William Jans. What do we got there? Oops. Battery in globe. Kid simply is a closed circuit. I've got an electric current to work with static in the air. Yeah, well, enough static. I mean, they call it, it's static electricity, right? Metal switch at the base of the bulb. The magnet turns it on. Metal switch at the base of the bulb. Do you understand that, Ben? Metal switch at the base of the bulb that the magnet turns on. I didn't say that. It was directly soldered onto the base of the bulb, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
Well, that's what they were showing, anyways. That's what they were showing.
So he's saying maybe there was a magnetic switch put in there, and it was okay, and it was a bit of a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too, Kiwi MacArthur. I was saying last night, I can't wear watches. Like, I wear a watch, and after a week, it just doesn't work. I just can't wear watches. And I often used to zap people. I've been through stages where I'll just, like, for months, I'll just be like, I'll zap everyone I come in contact with. It's bizarre.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Maybe I'm a battery.
We're all batteries. That's just a fact. And then the whole world's a battery. You bet.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta wonder if your electroconductivity was too high. Do you dehydrate a lot?
Not I get dry mouth sometimes, but I don't really dehydrate. I wouldn't call it. I probably should drink more water, but no, not really.
Well, I get cotton mouth too.
I've been pretty lazy for the last 2 years. I haven't done much. haven't been sweating anything out. So, okay, you got 2 minutes.
All right, I'm back. Oh, look at that. 2 minutes and I'm already back to explain it. So for the free energy aspect, when you have copper wrapped around, well, this is copper on copper, but it's a solenoid when copper's in a coil like this. And then when you have a ferrite material in the middle of it and you pump a little current through the solenoid, it turns it into electromagnetic or electromagnet and magnetizes the ferrite. And essentially, or it's inversed, when you put a magnet around ferrite that has that solenoid around it, then you're magnetizing the ferrite inside, and then having that magnetic field inside the solenoid will then cause the solenoid itself, the copper, to start producing a charge through its wires from the magnetic field inside of it. And that's where the energy would be coming from. And it's whether or not the magnet that's charging the ferrite has to be in motion to keep the electricity pumping and flowing, or if it will run stationary. And then the second aspect of it, where people are saying it could possibly be a fraud, is if you can see the plasma coil there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's got it. Sorry, 1 second. Technical difficulty.
Fluorescent tube, Bernie.
There we go. There we go. So it's that the type of bulb that they're using, it could be one of these smart bulbs that some of them have batteries inside of them, so that it could be just triggering that, and that's what's causing that light to work or not, or if it's just a light all in itself that it's actually powering. And that I'd like to see those sort of free energy videos where they use all the different types of bulbs, including the original incandescent bulb, to be able to test it to prove that it's not a trickery or a false usage, or that, for instance, they don't have a plasma field around it also that they turn on with their foot that lights up the bulb this way too, right? So it's like, depending on what sort of bulb they're using, there's different ways to potentially fake these devices working on the camera. And that's where some of the debunkers come in. And that's where also all of us backyard scientists and engineers and just, science projects with the kids on the weekend for scrap material, people really need to start building these, testing them themselves to see if they work or not, because there's so many of them and they seem convincing. And in principle, there is potential of where the electromagnetic current is being generated or like harnessed from the induction, electroinduction that's coming from it, that it's not cheating thermodynamics for it to be producing that electricity, especially in some of the more advanced ones that also use spark plugs in combination with old speakers and the solenoid coils, because then you could be taking all sorts of EMF radiation from the surrounding environment and turning that into the usable current electrical load.
I mean, that'd be a good website or even YouTube, wouldn't it? Like going through all the different experiments and testing them and going, this one actually works, this one doesn't. Because it's like it's like the law, There's all these people, talking about law of the land and free man and all that, but there's very few people that are showing you how to do it and showing you that they've done it and got to a completion. It's kind of the same with a lot of the free energy stuff. There's a lot of most of it's not a full video of how to do stuff, which, I mean, but with free energy, it may be, and law, it may be that way for a reason. We don't know, but it would be nice just to have a list of all the stuff that actually works and how to do it. Where's Luna? What happens when your phone or automatic doors don't register your energy? What does that mean? I don't get it. I saw David Copperfield make the Statue of Liberty disappear. Wow.
Why would your phone register your energy? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Or the automatic doors.
Maybe I'm not.
Oh, you mean like automatic doors as in like with scanners, like as in shopping centers where you walk in and they don't pick you up?
That's on weight. It's by weight.
Is
like
it?
That's why it's got.
I suppose most of it probably is just pressure pads, is it? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a pressure pad, and like automatic gate, only automatic gates. It's a metal sensor. That's why when enough of a vehicle passes over it, it fucking then it registers. Yeah.
So in regards, Cambell, to the idea that you're saying, and like what one of the projects to come will be a monthly conference that I'm putting together with Mike from Faraday, as well as Michael Boyd, and Join the Technicians, Jeremiah, as well as others, that we're going to call FREAK, Free Energy Electrical Engineering Conference. And that each month we'll also put out a project ahead of time for everybody, all the followers, to build, where we'll choose a YouTube video like the one you just played and get everybody to try to do their own build, and then have a segment of the Freak Conference that's just on the results of everybody who did the build and the supplies for it and whatnot, and then going over what next week's or next month's build project would be and picking it out, sort of thing.
Nice. That sounds good.
And there are a lot of free energy resources out there. I think there's a really solid one on rexresearch.com, as well as I know I think it's Patrick Kelly channel on YouTube. He was a UK engineer guy that built I think like over 100, maybe 200 different free energy concept builds from the patents and whatnot. It's kind of like what Mike does, but just has been doing it forever, for like a couple decades, and filming it and stuff. But I haven't seen, just like Jared Morin, who did a bunch of them. He was a Montreal Canadian guy. None of them have been producing content or been available for the last couple years, though, which has been kind of concerning. But at least their work is still up there on YouTube, as well as their corresponding websites with all of the blueprints and patent numbers and designs and stuff.
Nice. All right, how are you doing there, Ben? You look you still awake? You fading
barely.
fast? Barely.
Yeah, I'm a little punched. Yeah, barely.
Yeah. We know you've been up for like 20 hours. We've been going an hour and a half. Did you want to go into the solar stuff, or did you want to leave that for your chat?
Yeah, no, I can talk about the solar stuff. Yeah, no, I can talk
an hour. All right, let's do it.
Yeah. No
so did you have pictures of your setup, or were you
I went and took them. Oh, that's
Perfect.
the wrong button. That is the wrong button. I don't even know what that was. Holy smoke.
Yeah, so Tony Drake here is saying the magnet would have to be moving, and that is something that is quite possible, and
so it's
the laws of thermodynamics, the free energy device that you were playing, it's theoretically it could work, but the magnet would have to be constantly moving for it to be generating the current.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just going to be a static field. I don't understand how anything's flowing there. So I don't have pictures of the solar panels, but your solar panels, so the basic idea is you want to look at how many volts your solar panel is. And like my system is a 48 volt system. So I usually stack my solar panels are about 30 volts each. So I actually stack 3 of those together in order to make 90 volts. But that 90 volts is at maximum, like when the sun's hitting it just right, you know. So, and like say clouds go in front of it, it's going to fluctuate, things like that. So you want it to never dip below 48. Like my system's a 48 volt system, and that's set by your inverter. So what the solar controller, and that's what these are called the solar controller. And the solar controller is going to take it from that 90 volts or 50 volts or 70 volts or whatever and put it down to a nice clean 48. So it's always nice and 48. So you want your panels to always be above 48. And then your solar controller there is going to bring it down to 48. Now, my solar controller, I jump right. That's a really bad picture. Right into my inverter. So that's going to jump right over into my inverter. And from my inverter, and that's just basically, you can see that these are just bars. So it's just tying it together. So then depending on whether I'm using power or not, and part of why I feed it right to my inverter, because you can feed it to your batteries directly and then pull power from your batteries all the time, where you're basically using your batteries as like a capacitor. But the problem with doing that is your batteries, you're constantly funneling power through them. You're doing basically electrolysis. And so you're going to burn up these lead acid batteries pretty quick doing it that way. So I run it directly into my inverter and then put my batteries from that. So that way, if I'm pulling power through the inverter, it actually feeds from my solar panels and through my controllers right into the inverter and doesn't pull them from my batteries. So then my batteries basically are going to take whatever's left over that's I'm not currently using, and pack that away as an extra charge to be used later. So the inverter is taking that 48 volts and turning it into 220 volt circuits that are running 90 degrees apart from each other. And so that's giving you 240 volt. Now, so there's the top of the inverter, and this is what's actually doing the inverting. These two power boxes here, and then there's a big fan on top of them. Really, they're not real complicated units when you really get down to them. And then this is my battery bank. So because I'm running a 48 volt system, these batteries, these are called an L16 lead acid battery. They have a pretty good amp hour on them. So in order to get up to these are 6 volt batteries. And so in order to get up to 48 volts, I've got to stack 8 of them in a series in order to make 6 times, 8 is 48. So this is basically one battery, this whole stack of 8. Then you turn around and each set of these that you add on then just ups your amp hours. So this is called parallel. So then you got series. So this is a series parallel setup in order to bring up my amp hours instead of just the volts. So, and then from this really bad picture where I apparently was moving, from the inverter, then it just feeds. This is my house, typical house circuit box, circuit breaker box, where it feed out of the inverter into because mine's 240, which you can get a 120, and most people that live off grid, 120 is just fine. But because I run a lab and do some things, some of the applications that I have need 240. So I need a 240 volt power, but a lot of people do 120. But so then it's just one lug and typical household stuff after that point.
Nice. So basically, whenever you plug something in, you're literally using the sun. As long as the sun's out, you're using that straight up instead of drawing from your batteries. So how old is your battery setup? How long have you had those batteries?
Old. Them batteries are shot.
Very old.
Yeah. What
do they say about 5 years? Isn't it for a normal sort of setup? About 5 years for a battery.
And I think I've had those 8. I think 8 years I've had those. And I've redone them, you know, where you take and you dump out the electrolyte and you put in distilled water in order, because they sulfate, the batteries sulfate, where the salt ends up attaching itself to the electrode. And
have you heard this theory about putting them on low charge for extended amounts of time? And apparently I think what they say is it's blowing a lot of that crap off the
to desulfate it.
Yeah, and they're saying that if you do it to a dead battery, it brings it back. If you do it for like 48 hours, but you need one of the old style trickle chargers, like not these new electronic ones, because they, you know. But if you can put it on a low amperage for a long time,
a more thorough charge with a trickle charger. But the way I understand it, actually, to get it to desulfate once it's really badly sulfated, you got to throw a really hard charge at it. And that's kind of what I've been taking as the Ragnarok event, is that hard charge desulfating the system and resetting it. Because then after Ragnarok, there's always the planet comes back green and lush and everything grows, even though no man toiled to make it grow. You know, so it's like a renewal of the system.
Okay, so Ragnarok is the Norse name for the Phoenix, the reset event, basically. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay, cool. So what would that be? How would you send a high charge to a battery? Would you just with a
you just take and you get a special charger that's going to throw in and it's got to be a fast charge, so you're going to need some pretty serious power to do it,
like a welder or something. Something like that. Okay. Yeah, because
George has a device that he a special charger he sells to do it, but eventually you just eventually you end up burning them up either way. I want to switch up to the nanocarbon battery. So these lead acid batteries, these things are old as hell. I've already taken and replaced the electrolyte with distilled water to get out the old salts, and then put in new electrolyte and all that. They've moved houses a couple times. Yeah, they're old. But these lead acids only have a 40% transfer. So what if you take in 100 amps at your panel, and only 40 amps worth is going, and it doesn't really, amps isn't really the term for it, but you get the idea. Only 40 is going into your batteries. And then you're also going to lose some in your batteries as they're sitting there, and then the transfer on the way back and everything. So the nanocarbon, that has a couple advantages. One, you see these 3 caps on the top. These batteries breathe, and you consistently have to put distilled water back into them, and consistently have to clean them and everything else, which during the summer, they burn through water. And during the winter, when the battery gets cold, it wants to keep its voltage is fake. It's like it says you have more volts, and then you go to use it, and they aren't really there. It doesn't have the punch. Well, with the nanocarbon, it's a 90% transfer, or 95. It's either 90 or 95 transfer from panel to battery. So that's a giant jump. And then the nanocarbons don't breathe. So you can actually put those inside in a nice little neat rack and put them in a closet and put your inverter inside right above it. And then it's more temperature controlled like your home. And you don't have the hot and cold destroying the batteries the way they like to do.
So is that the same basic setup though as like a lead acid as far as the anode kind of setup, or different battery altogether? It is, yeah.
Yeah, exactly the same type setup.
So same battery, just different, like anode cathode basically, isn't it? Different materials in the anode cathode.
Yeah, they're using a nanocarbon tube.
What you have there is a pretty decent, pretty modern, like overall awesome setup. But then, like you're explaining, it's just so efficient, the old technologies. And now as we're learning these different nano ways and whatnot, like the upgrading, you're literally doubling the efficiency just off of changing one aspect here, and like one aspect there will all double another one and another one. And me and Mike, I don't know if you've seen our streams with Faraday Research, Mike, but
love those ones.
And talking a lot about that, and just as well as join the technicians here, Jeremiah, another great channel and genius electrical engineer, that we have these discussions about there being so many ways that just simple like resonance and vibration of circuits, like if we change the grid to certain frequencies, that it would up the efficiency on exponential levels. And then there's all these other ways, like you just described, of a different type of nano battery that will up in efficiency here exponentially. Another one there where if 5 to 10 years of serious R&D and development was put into this by the actual grid companies and power companies, within a decade we would be needing maybe 1/10 or probably 100th to 1,000th less fossil fuels or nuclear fuels or hydro dams, whatever it is, just energy going in to generate the amount of electrical power current that we're wasting in the current grid system and current technological system of the grid, what we have set up. And it's like they've done that intentionally to create this artificial demand and then wastage of electricity on the consumer paying for it, where we could all easily produce at least half, if not all, the electricity we needed ourselves just at home from home.
It's horribly predatory. I honestly suspect that Benjamin Franklin, it wasn't lightning he was doing with his key and his kite. It was voltage differential that he was finding. I don't think it had anything to do with lightning.
Exactly, 100%. We've seen so many books, Ben, like with Cambell, I think, showed one, and then Martin Liedtke's shown a couple of these French and German 400, 500-year-old science books where they're showing the levels of atmospheric differential and harvesting the atmospheric electricity. And that's exactly what cathedrals and churches and whatnot were. And probably ships also back in the day could also harness this atmosphere.
Yeah, you were talking about that. That was so good.
That one with the anchor?
And then, oh, that's so good. Yeah, I was like, whoa.
And then like the airship thing as well, like that's another thing, is airships were probably collecting their power from atmospheric differential, where if they hung down the anchor up as well as another balloon above them, that's a massive differential in the clouds too. Like, think of that. And then around the helium or the hydrogen itself, if they were using metallic like aluminum or something reflective like a metamaterial, that then the charge on that too, you've got like the T. Townsend Brown electrogravitics on it, even more so, that it's the Sonera Aero Club. That's more good videos you've done on, Cambell, that it's quite possible. It's real technology.
There's some spun out stuff out there, isn't there? All right.
Exactly.
Theology. Graphite batteries now.
Yeah, and once you free power and we go back to growing our own food, what do we need them for? That's the whole gimmick.
Have you seen the people who are using copper antennas, I guess, with plants to get they just put in like a piece of copper in next to plants and they're getting better yield?
Yeah, the Nunez's with their Peace on Earth coil, it's type of rodent coil. I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually my next stream with Jeremiah here, join the technicians, and hopefully we'll have Winnipeg Enlightenment for Truth and his coils as well. He's one of the most advanced in these coils. And the video, it'll be on Thursday, called The Year of the Coils Update. We're working with Bob Greenier and APEC as well on that. And it's such coils as these, and also, you know, the I believe the Keshi coil system, also the Magravs potentially work if they're triple solenoid coils within coils within coils, and that they're nano coated as well, which gets you into that plasma feel.
Steel's just the wrong. We should be using copper and stuff, shouldn't we? Have you seen? Have you heard about like the copper hand tools?
Yeah.
And the difference between copper and metal and steel hand tools? Hang on.
So I wanted to talk about why we were pushed into using iron and steel gardening tools. Now this is really important because iron and steel basically going into the soil changes the magnetism of the soil, diminishing it so that it actually dries out quicker. So you have to pour more water to try to hydrate it, and also strips the nutrients out of the soil as well too. Victor Schauberger proved all this in the 1930s and 1940s when he created the brass and copper plow that he used to boost his yields, because he learned that when you take copper or brass and place it right into the soil, it'll slide basically right in, versus if you take iron and you try to place it into the soil, it'll almost be like you have some resistance against it trying to push it in. So it's interesting because they gave us tools which are actually more work than if we were to use the tools of brass and copper, so we could do less work. And then, you know, the thing is if we use the technology correctly, we could be harnessing so much food. Also,
anything like that.
Remember what I said in my presentation, copper draws hydrogen.
That is absolutely fascinating. And wow, I had not seen that before, but it makes perfect sense.
So it would hydrogenate the soil with copper, but it would suck the moisture out with steel.
With iron. Right? And that it would also, copper going in would probably add some monoatomic copper, like the David Hudson style with it as well. I'm going to show quickly here.
Which is what all the steel would be doing too. They'd be dropping bits of steel all through, which is magnetic, right? And that's creating a field. And it's clearly a different field to what you get with copper. So would that be a negative? Is that negatively affecting plants? Would that, do you know, does a magnetic...
With the copper, you'd be getting... Also, you'd be getting diamagnetic, and then with the iron, you'd be getting ferromagnetic.
And ferro, would that be detrimental to the plants?
It must be. You're almost like you almost wonder if it's doing something similar to like your credit card in a magnet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but that's also a positive, isn't it? And the ground has a natural negative charge. Is that right? So, is it something maybe it's messing up?
You want the ground to have H plus, so a positive hydrogen is what you're trying to get into the ground, so that way the ground can carry as much the electron load as possible. So you need as much H plus in there, and if you're driving the iron through there, that's going to push that. That's going to push the hydrogen.
It's going to pull.
That's drawing in, and it's going to draw in the oxygen.
So what the iron did you say is going to draw the hydrogen up and out of the soil, or just?
Yeah, Yeah, it's
So,
going to
okay,
push
so-
it. And then the copper, that's why if you're leaving that copper in the soil, it's drawing the hydrogen.
From down into the soil from above, you mean?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And that's
Gotcha.
drawing in that hydrogen.
Okay. Yeah, wow. Okay, well, there you go. So that's a simple test that anyone can try. Go and grab a piece of copper and shove it next to your favorite plant and see what happens. Or better still, get two plants the same and put some copper next to one and not next to the other and see if it's different.
Always with the control. Always grow with control.
Always have a control. Yeah, sorry. I fell out of my scientist mind for a minute there. Thank you, Bernie.
Well,
very naughty of me.
What I'm showing right here, this is, I was making mono at what the Philosopher's Stone gold-silver monoatomic combination. And where normally it comes out white, like I've shown before, with the 10-gram 24 karat gold ounce bar and the 99.991 ounce silver coin on the anode cathode, I added a second, it's about a 2-gram fracture chunk of 24 karat gold bar as a second cathode onto it. So there's silver and gold cathodes and then a gold anode. And instead of it being white, it actually has come out in this orangish color this time. And, so it's like probably triatomic, because if it was diatomic, like an oxidized, it would have came out green. But instead it's coming out almost like this rusty color. And then what's really crazy is you guys just saw me suck up from this jar and dump it into this guy. Now it's turned into a black gold from that orange. So we will see what it settles out as over the next few days, if it turns to purple or the red maroon, or if it stays as black gold, or if it turns back into a blue or white.
What was that from? Silver and what?
Silver and gold combination.
So what's silver and gold?
Pure gold.
So, wow. So that's got to be like that's not an element. That's like fourth state matter, right? I mean, it seems to be drawing in something that's not present in the gold or silver, or is that just transmutation?
Right, it could be transmutation, or just another state of gold potentially. Either or, it just goes to show like this will probably give you heavy metal poisoning and would kill you instantly, even though like the exact same amount of current out of the exact same two metal pieces before was producing that straight white monoatomic that I have been consuming. This is now a waste of the gold that came off and the silver that came off, like an experiment gone wrong that I will never consume that because I would just kill myself. But it's a costly experiment if anybody feels like donating to Bernard's Alchemy.
Yeah. 2 grams of gold at this point's no joke.
Exactly. Like that's like $150 or something, I think, or no, 10 grams. So like $50, I think, worth of.
Have you collected any of this stuff and done any experiments of, like Ben was talking about, the dude who did the experiment and collected all the goop and then measured his anode and cathode and realized that he hadn't lost any material, so he created 19 pounds out of thin air.
So I have been starting to measure them before I put them in and measure afterwards. Like now that I've done it and I'm harvesting it, I'll weigh it afterwards as well to compare. But I'm pretty sure some of them definitely the material has come out of the ether essentially, and the gold and silver bars, the anode and cathode, were essentially the same.
That's such a simple experiment, and it's so easily done and done under proper controls, and it proves that all science is bullshit, basically, doesn't it? It proves the ether or a fourth state.
Yeah, they don't know anything that they're talking about.
No. and that you could do that so controlled, that experiment, and it's 100% proof.
Yeah, every single person that's bought one of these Aqua Cures from George can, just by running it and cleaning it, just save the material, and you notice that eventually that material starts weighing as much as the machine, and your machine still works. Like it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
Now my theory, I have a theory on it. My theory is the only thing you're putting into it is electricity, which we know that electricity is, there's a particle there, and the other half of that particle is still existing, and it's just split into a polarity, creating a field. So when you run that one half of that particle into it, it basically programs it, and when it remerges with the other side of that its ion side, while it's in the electrolytic fluid, after having been programmed by passing through the anode and cathode, then it automatically pulls in as the same metal. The sludge is the same metal as type material.
You can see that the gold is actually white on this second cathode piece right here, or anode piece.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Could you
So it's
could you freeze any of that? Sorry. Could you freeze any of that goop and like Dr. Emoto it? Take some photos under a microscope and see if there's any fractals in it.
I have a microscope right here that I have to start using. It's a real old school one, but I think it's a pretty badass one that I'm gonna hook up. And then I've also got a old digital one right there too that I'm gonna try to get working.
There you go. So you need to get some glass slides, get some of that stuff, put them in slides and freeze them and chuck them under your microscope.
Yeah. Well, winter is coming in Canada, so don't you worry. I've got 6 months of those sort of experiments coming up for everybody. And last winter, I made 2 crucial discoveries. And when I took some zinc, copper, silver monoatomic mixture out, it was minus 30. There was about 2 to 3 inches of the white monoatomic at the bottom of this Tupperware when I took it out, and it's called moon crystals. It's a video stream on my Crypto Alchemist channel that I actually recorded it all, and they turned into crystals. The monoatomic overnight at the minus 30, the monoatomic matter, the powder, the goop in the liquid, crystallized and turned into 3 inches of pure crystal at the bottom of the Tupperware, and the water hadn't quite frozen yet, and it was just the crystals. And then sure enough, those crystals existed. They didn't melt in the Tupperware. About a month later, Chinook came. It was above zero. It was complete liquid in all of my outdoor experiments, and these crystal layer was still there. And that's when I shot this moon crystals video where I scooped a bunch of the crystals out. I ran them under tap water for about a minute, and they didn't melt, so they weren't ice, and they didn't dissolve, so they weren't salt. At which point I then put the crystals out in front of the camera, and they began over the next hour to oxidize, and all that was left was this monoatomic white residue in the shapes of the crystals after it was all done. And it's in my moon crystal video on Crypto Alchemist. You can see it all.
And that was that on a full moon, did you say?
Yeah, they formed on a full moon.
That's
correct.
weird,
It was
man.
on a full moon that they formed.
It's almost like the exact opposite is liquid crystal, you know, like it's almost like the opposite,
right? Like
it fell apart in salt instead of melting into crystal. That's really interesting.
And it turned back into that pure white powder after everything when I exposed it to the air, and it oxidized and dried out over the next hour. And like it didn't turn into a liquid like water and dissolve off. No, it just pure dry white powder, and it's on camera doing it the entire time. It's freaking fascinating.
Do we know
stuff.
what this white powder is? Has it been?
Well, it would have been the monoatomic zinc, silver, and
Gold
copper
or
that I had originally turned it or used.
So basically, any metal in a monoatomic form is white powder, right?
Yeah, you got it.
So it just depends on what cathode and anode you're using. Or cathode. Okay.
We love you too, Mimi Lisa.
Oh, Mimi Lisa.
We love all of you watching, all 212 tuning in right now. May you have blessed day, and hail, hail the alchemy.
Hail, hail.
I love you guys. I gotta go to bed. I am. My brain's only half working.
Going there. No. Thanks so much for joining us. It was very impromptu. We only, like we said, only organised this 5 hours ago when you were doing a live stream of your own. So thank you for staying up and giving some time to us. That was awesome.
And this is our weekly schedule now, Autodidactic Alchemist, every my Monday night, your Tuesday afternoon in Australia.
So feel free to drop in anytime you want. Yeah, you're always welcome. Just drop us a line and jump in, man. And also Bernie's coming up on your channel. So everyone, you'll find the links to Benjamin Balderson's channel in the description below. So go across there, give him a like, a subscribe.
And Crypto Alchemist and Bernai the Mind Science Guy. I got to get that channel up to 1,000 and then be able to hopefully monetize them both. And who knows, maybe one day they'll give me Bernard Conkin back. So it's January 22nd, Thursday, that I will be on Benjamin Balderson YouTube, Odin Alchemy on Rumble, I believe it is. This Friday, so Cambell, I got to email you right after if you want to stay on after to figure out the Paul Cook time. Paul Cook's going to be with us Friday morning, I guess, or afternoon, depending where.
I hope it's the morning. God, I may have booked a few things on Friday. Don't you hate it when you just go, and all these things start going, it's stacking up, and you're like, oh my God. I hope
so there's the 30 different channels that I have interviews and podcasts with in the next month. So it's gonna it's a fun time.
Going for it. Nice.
And so hopefully I've been talking with Ken Wheeler, Theory Apophysis, the tattooed monkey, and trying to wheel him into doing a stream with us. It'll probably
He's scary, man.
Well, we're integrating with the Projected Alien Scientist as well, right? The Science of Sound series. So then once we get that, then we can start doing like the Freak Free Energy Electrical Engineering Conference and stuff like that. That then it's a conference that will be live on all the channels simultaneously, and that we'll be able to book a bunch of guests for like an afternoon, and then I'll alternate it with APEC sort of thing. So we'll be doing APEC one Saturday or like 2 Saturdays a month, and then a Freak once a month as well for this all.
What we should do also is organise to get Cammy on here. Maybe get you back with Cammy Ben.
Yeah,
and go through some of her theories. I try and listen, but she does. Oh my God, she's. She just melts my brain. So I'd like to try and get my head around what she's on about.
Is that Rainbow Lasagna?
Pardon?
Yeah, she's going to show me all she's going to talk about field and the way that's working in my thing. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, she's cool. Yeah. What was that, Bern?
Is that the Rainbow Lasagna noodle lady?
No. That's Aurora.
Sorry,
she's got like the moon with the little kid sitting on it for a symbol. She's
Cammy Odell and Bob from Buster's wife.
Okay.
Yeah. Who's wife?
Eiling 77. AISLING. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Eiling717.
Okay.
And she does Iron Realm Media, and her and Zach do presentations. Good Times for All. Zach from Good Times for All.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The Earth is supposed to fly around the sun at the exact same amount of subscribers that Cambell currently has per mile per hour.
Exactly. See, come on. Are you all calling me fake or something? Illuminati confirmed.
I can't even do it with glasses on.
Bryce, don't be mean. What do you mean, freaky proportions? I know he's got big earlobes. I do agree. Big earlobes on that dude. God.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Love you guys.
Sure, brother. Thank you.
We will see you soon.
Yeah, we'll let you go. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be in touch, mate. Dream well. Thanks for joining us.
Much love, Benjamin. Thank you. All right.
All righty. Well, that was cool. That's a smart dude. So we'll get him back. Did anyone catch the name that he said Cammy's channel was? I missed it.
I did as well.
Oh, here we go. Hippie shake. Well,
there we go. Hippie shake.
Whoops.
We clicked that at the same time.
All right. Nice. Aisling717. Yeah, go check that. You'd like it too. I need to spend more time because she melts my brain when I talk to her. There it is. Nice. All right, so there we go. What are we doing? Oh my God, 2 hours, 13 minutes. We've been going. So thank you all for joining us. A couple of hundred of you still there. We will be back next Tuesday. Same Alchemist time, same Alchemist channel. And we're not sure what we're doing, but it will be awesome.
And Friday, we will be Saturday, depending Australia or North America, Europe, with Paul Cook. And I put up Rex Research there if anybody wants to take a look in the meantime. Rex Research has all sorts of the free energy stuff, alchemy stuff, and everything else in between. Yeah, so we will be back Friday.
We'll be back Friday, and of course Thursday, Tartari Australia. Don't miss that. And I am going live again on Friday night with Gary Gaza from Truth Hurts. So lots coming up. And lots going on with Bernie and his 30 coming up. He's doing a challenge. I think it's an interview a day for a month. So maybe you'll have to start a little shorts like a series of short videos. We want 30 of them. Before each video, we want a short. Okay, this is Berno about to jump on the stream. It's a month of keeping Cambell sane, and thank you everyone who's contributed, who's donated, and that supports the work that we do. Hope we didn't miss any, did we? Yes, hope we didn't miss any chats or super chats that we were supposed to see. Sorry if we did. Love you all. Thank you all for being here. I would go through the names, but there's still 185. We equally, so we don't want to put anyone up and anyone down. So
we love
stay
you
awesome,
all.
Everybody. I'm going to try and be clever and get an outro. Oh, there's even one that's called outro. There you go. All right. So we love you all. Stay awesome, and we'll catch you all on the next upload. Bye for now.